You can't just bulldoze someone's land while they're brushing their teeth. I screamed, mouth half full of toothpaste foam, sprinting barefoot across the wet grass. That was the moment my life officially turned into a cartoon. There she was, Cheryl Bainbridge, president of the Meadowglen Community Association, standing atop a bulldozer in kitten heels, pointing straight at me like some deranged suburban general. "Remove him from the premises," she shouted. It all started at 6:43 a.m. on a Wednesday. That matters because nothing reasonable begins before 7 a.m., and this certainly wasn't the exception. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the low growl of machinery. In our semi-rural area, that wasn't unusual. People were always paving driveways or putting up sheds. But this sound was angry, more like the earth being chewed up. I spat in the sink and looked out my bathroom window. There it was, a full-sized cat bulldozer crawling across the back edge of my field. The same field behind the old barn, next to the creek. My field, my federally protected, privately owned soil research site. I didn't stop to get dressed. I didn't grab boots or a shirt. I ran. And there she stood, Cheryl, in her signature pastel blazer, sunglasses the size of saucers, and a clipboard gripped like a weapon. She was barking orders to the bulldozer operator like she was directing Swan Lake. I demanded she shut it down. She didn't even flinch. "Excuse me, sir. This land is designated for a community gazebo. You're trespassing on association property," she said, like she was offering me tea and biscuits. "This is my land," I shouted. "There's a barbed wire fence." She waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, that old thing? We reviewed the plans. This section is unused. It's better suited for beautification. Don't you care about the neighborhood?" I stepped in front of the bulldozer and motioned for the operator to stop. He hesitated, then cut the engine. He was just a contractor paid by the hour and not looking for a turf war. I pulled out my phone and began recording. "You're trespassing. You're damaging federally protected land. This is a USDA-monitored soil research site. I will have you arrested." Her response? She reached down, plucked one of my solar soil sensors from the ground, and dropped it in a nearby trash bin. "Looks like junk to me." That's when I knew we were past reasoning. We were in DEFCON 1 HOA insanity. Let me back up. After a 35-year career with the USDA, I had spent the last few years rehabilitating an old cattle field using a federal soil integrity grant. It had taken 6 years to restore the mosses, grasses, and carbon-retaining soil layers. This wasn't dirt. This was gold. Protected gold. Cheryl didn't care. She'd become HOA president after bribing people with donuts during the annual mailbox meeting. She ruled like a pastel dictator. Her newest plan? Turn every underutilized area into a beautification zone. But my property wasn't part of the HOA. Never had been. Still, Cheryl found a workaround. She declared my land communal green space and bulldozed first, apologized never. I showed her the title deed. Pointed out conservation signs she had clearly removed. She threatened to report me for having unlicensed soil equipment and obstructing community development. When the sheriff arrived, thankfully called by a neighbor, he looked between us. "This really your land, Roy?" "Yes," I replied, pulling out my parcel ID and the USDA overlay signed by the state AG commissioner. Cheryl interrupted, flustered. "That database is outdated. I have new maps." She shoved a grainy, home-printed map into his hands, complete with smiley faces and pink highlighter lines. The sheriff looked at it, sighed, and muttered, "Lady, this ain't a monarchy." He told her to stop all activity until the situation was clarified. She stormed off, telling the bulldozer operator to be ready tomorrow. I was left staring at a 3-foot trench cut through my moss, 2 broken sensors, and God knows how much damage to the soil structure. By 2 p.m., I had the footage uploaded and shared with my contacts at the USDA and my lawyer. We titled it the Sodozer Incident. That night, I noticed something chilling in Cheryl's map. An official HOA seal. One she wasn't authorized to use without a board vote. It was either a forgery or an abuse of power. Either way, it was fraud. The next morning was too quiet. Tension filled the air like static. I documented everything. Tire tracks, damaged moss patches, missing sensors. I uploaded everything to cloud storage. By late morning, a gray SUV rolled up. Out stepped a USDA agent and an EPA rep. I gave them the full tour. When Agent Simmons uncovered a sample node under the crushed soil, he said tampering with this could be a federal felony. I smiled bitterly. Well, she did it on camera. They told me to keep all footage secure. That afternoon, Cheryl posted a long-winded message on the community group page. She called it a time for uplift and beautification and urged neighbors to ignore the negativity from certain individuals. Comments began to split. Some cheered her. Others questioned why she was using land that wasn't part of the HOA. I installed new no trespassing signs and motion-activated cameras. Cheryl came back the next day, this time in her Lexus, claiming the HOA had voted to designate my field as Phase 1 of their green reclamation plan. I told her she could declare my land a unicorn sanctuary for all I cared. It didn't make it legal. That day, I got a letter from Brent Meyer, the HOA's go-to real estate agent turned fake lawyer. He accused me of blocking community progress and misusing public space. The feds weren't just interested anymore. They were investigating. Cheryl had triggered an avalanche. Then came the twist. A neighbor anonymously dropped off a manila envelope. Inside were drone photos Cheryl, in gloves and a hoodie, pouring something across my soil. Herbicide. The patches she walked through were dead. I shared it with the USDA. They confirmed it was intentional sabotage. Now it was a criminal investigation. Cheryl kept posturing. She held a spring fair, inviting her cousin, a patio furniture salesman, as a landscape consultant. She presented maps showing walking paths and gardens on my field. Neighbors were skeptical. Linda, another longtime resident, whispered to me she really thinks she's queen of the mulch pile. More evidence piled up, past Facebook posts about ignoring zoning laws, emails, altered maps. Even the local news picked up the story. I gave them a tour, explained the moss's carbon capture capabilities. The segment went viral. Karen became a meme. So did I. But more importantly, public pressure mounted. County officials launched a formal review. Then came her grand finale, a ribbon-cutting ceremony for her green zone. On my land. The day of the event, I watched from my porch. A dozen chairs, balloons, and a big fake banner with her name on it. But the guests of honor weren't her Instagram influencers. It was the USDA, the EPA, and county zoning enforcement. They shut her down on camera. No permits. No authorization. She was cited on the spot. News cameras captured every second. Within days, Cheryl faced charges: environmental damage, trespassing, fraud, and misuse of HOA funds. She was stripped of her title, banned from future leadership roles, and ordered to pay fines. An audit revealed she'd been using HOA funds for personal expenses for years, including bounce houses and catered lunches. My civil suit moved forward. We refused her settlement. This wasn't about money. It was about setting a precedent. Then the university called. They wanted to use the field for research. Offered a grant to repair the damage and expand the site. What Cheryl tried to destroy had become something bigger. Students arrived to study, plant, and rebuild. They named the site themselves the Bainbridge Buffer Zone. I never gloated. I didn't have to. The land spoke louder than Cheryl ever could. And its voice finally had been heard.